Am I the a-hole for not inviting my parents to my wedding and anyone from that family? Plus update. Original post. I, 27, and my husband, 28, are going to get married in January. On his side, everyone is invited, but on mine, I only invited my aunt and her husband. When my parents and the rest of my family found out, they caused a ruckus and called me names. But I have justification for what I did. Context. I was the first daughter or granddaughter and niece. I was everyone's spoiled girl until more babies came. And when I was 8, my little sister was born. My grandparents and my mom stopped treating me in a special way. If my sister broke something of mine, she would get punished. But if I called her something, I'd be punished. Once she even broke my glasses and I was punished. My father was present for some time, but then he disappeared. The money was always constant, but not the visits or calls. When I was 11, I was closer to my maternal aunt who lived kilometers away from me than to my uncles, grandparents, and my mother who lived with me. That aunt is 9 years older than me, and she's my mother's half-sister. And even though I only saw her on Christmas, birthdays, and holidays, we spoke 2 times a day on phone calls. One day when I was 12 and she was 21, I decided to spend a summer vacation at her house. Even though my mother did not think my aunts would be able to take care of me, those were the 2 best months of my life. After my vacation, I studied more and was a good student, so they would let me go to her house again. But everything was ruined when my math grades began to go down. Even though I was putting in effort and my aunt even paid for a tutor for me, my grades didn't get better. My aunt came to visit in the middle of the school year and went to see what was happening in school with my mom. It was then that my teacher explained I wasn't paying attention in class because I was very lovey-dovey with a classmate. My mother and aunt were shocked and asked why I was saying this. The teacher then explained that I was a lesbian and my classmate was my girlfriend. And that is an institution, they cannot accept that. It was a religious school. My aunt raised hell and said they'd sue for discrimination, but my mother believed him. When we came home, she hit me and outed me to the entire family. I wasn't a lesbian, and that girlfriend was just a friend. My aunt got in the middle of it and defended me. It was then that my mom kicked me out and told my aunt if she was so into defending me, I could stay with her because I was a shameful person and she would not go through this with the neighbors. My aunt didn't think twice and took me with her and later called my father to tell him. They both made a formal complaint and formally confirmed I'd be staying with my aunt. My grandmother, who lived with my aunt, also shamed me for being supposedly a lesbian, but my aunt who owned the house kicked her out. From that day on, my aunt and her husband, who was then just her boyfriend, took care of me as if I was their daughter. When I was 15, they adopted me. They paid for my college fees and during all that time, made me go to therapy. I must say this all affected me greatly, but the love they gave me helped incredibly. To me, they are my parents, not my aunt and uncle. Now, when my family found out I was to marry a man, they came to me and apologized. And I accepted, but even so, I did not wish to reconnect with them. But they thought with the apology they were more than invited to the wedding. And 2 weeks ago, my mother and grandma came to my dress appointment. I was incensed. They had not been invited, and I kicked them out. They got angry and started insulting me and my husband. I told them that I didn't want them in my life and that I only accepted their apologies for my mental health. Even so, 3 days ago, a cousin of my father had called me to ask about the dress code and if kids are okay at the wedding. And I told her that she, along with the rest of that family, was not invited. She got angry with me and minutes later, my father called me to ask who he was giving me to. I told him it would be my father, my uncle, who'd do that, and he called me a bunch of names. I just simply hanged up. So am I the a-hole? My mom says if I don't want those people in my wedding, she'll support me. But my mother-in-law says family's family no matter what. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You are not the bad one. Your aunt and uncle deserve to be there. Your parents don't. For many reasons, they are bad parents. They kicked you out of their lives. Now they don't deserve to come back. They didn't want to be part of OP's life when she was a child and needed them. Now that they realize she is over them and doesn't want to be part of their lives either, they are mad about it. They don't care about OP or her wedding. They just don't like the shoe being on the other foot. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding. You and your husband decide who is going to be invited. It sounds to me like you have very compelling reasons for not inviting those family members. However, I would advise you to hire security to kick these people out, because I can almost guarantee you that they'll try to show up. Thank you very much. I saw several comments about security, so I will keep that in mind to do it. The last thing I want is for them to break into my wedding. A really fascinating trick would be to do what a couple did a few years ago. Send invites to the wedding to the family, but a date on them is changed to a week later. Someone you trust can meet them at the venue to let them know you are already on the honeymoon. In many places, you can hire a police detail for a wedding. It's a little more than security, but people will take it seriously. If they don't follow officers' orders, they can be arrested, whereas most rude people will feel fine disregarding a security guard. Call the non-emergency number for the police department that operates in the town/district of your wedding venue and/or reception. Ask for the details from the coordinator. Thank you very much. I had no idea about that. I will take it into account and do it. I have all the background of what happened when I was a child, and that can help me. You are amazing. Thanks again. You are doing the right thing. These people are trash. Sure, they apologize to you, but they still feel it was appropriate to disown you and treat you like trash because they're homophobic monsters. If you were gay, they would still be treating you that way. They are bad people and they do not deserve your pity, much less your concern. Let them die mad. Have your aunt send out a blast text to the whole family, telling them they are not invited, and that there will be security at the venue to prevent anyone without an invite from getting in. They don't get to pretend they view you as family when they have spent years making sure you knew exactly how little they thought of you. Tell your future mother-in-law that her family is not your family. No matter what is an insane thing to say about people who abused you. Make sure she understands that this is a hill you will die on, and that your abusers, make sure you use that word, are not going to be allowed to force their way into your life no matter who they share genes with. If future mother-in-law hasn't experienced abuse, she has no business speaking to your situation. Until today, my mother-in-law did not know my real history with them because I did not think it was necessary. But I did it because my aunt/mother told me that it would be good for her to know my reasons. It was a horrible thing for her to know, and now she is totally okay with them coming back into my life. Now for the update. It's been nearly a month since my first post, and I wanted to explain some things that have happened to me. I told my mother-in-law about everything my family did to me in the past. At first, she seemed supportive, but then my husband found out she was still in contact with my parents, and he decided to cut her off. He advised her that if she continued down this path, she'd never meet future grandchildren. He also told her that the only way she'd be able to come back into our lives was if she apologized to meet my adoptive parents. He also told his father and brothers that if they tried to intervene between us, my family and his mother, they'd also be cut off from our lives, and that of our future kids. One thing I did not mention was everything around my father and my sister. Turns out, after my father decided he couldn't take care of me and let me go live with my aunt, he and my mother got back together and had a son. My sister thought I lived with my dad, and I thought she had a much better life. But as I've found out, my ex-family mistreated her day and night. They basically had her kidnapped, and she couldn't use the phone or the internet, even though she is not a minor. When we found out, we went to get her. I must say it wasn't the best way. We followed her until we found her uni. There, we kind of ambushed her and asked her to come with us. She was very happy to see us and came with us. Together, we talked about it all. We apologized to each other and told everything. We both were victims of our parents. Right now, my adoptive parents are fighting for custody of our little brother. With my sisters and mine's witness statements, we hope to win. We also got my sister therapy to help her a bit with all of the trauma. As for my wedding, we decided to rush it and have a small wedding. With only my adoptive parents, my siblings, my parents had a few more kids, some friends, and my husband's father and brother. We told no one to have no surprises. Thank you for your advice and support. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being mad that my boyfriend's ex-wife ruined my birthday plans? I'm a 38-year-old female. Been with my boyfriend for 4 years now. His ex has always been an issue, but we deal with it. He has a 14-year-old son. I don't have much of a relationship with him because his mom doesn't like the fact that his dad moved on after the divorce and she hasn't. She was caught cheating by the way, and the man she cheated with went back to his wife, so she is bitter towards us. Now, my boyfriend and I have been making plans for my birthday. We planned a date together, going on a short road trip and then dinner. My boyfriend already told his ex that he would be out of town that day if their son needed anything. Everything was fine, up until that morning. He gets a call that his son's mother has decided to go out of town and she was dropping their son off. I asked him to inform her that we had plans as discussed previous, and she needs to adhere to the plans. It was her weekend to have him anyway. My boyfriend refused. Any other time, I tell him his kids come first, but this was my day. My one day out of the year that I asked to be accommodated. I never ask for anything during the holidays. This is just my day. His son gets bored easily and is constantly complaining, so the entire day will be miserable with him constantly waiting to go home. My boyfriend asked if we could reschedule, and I told him no. This is the one time I ask him to do for me and he can't? I told him to have a great day with his son. I was going to celebrate by myself. He got mad and said I was not being fair. I explained to him that it isn't fair for him to cower down to his ex-wife and stick the plans. She knew we were going out of town. So I left and did my own thing by myself. Am I the a-hole for celebrating my birthday without him? Now for the top comments. Why tell her plans so she can ruin them? He's 14, not an infant. I'd dump him for this. Exactly. It wasn't even their weekend. I get letting her know in case of emergency, but send a text after you are already there. That depends, because if there is a legal custody structure, then part of the agreement might be advance notice about going out of town / restrictions and availability in case of emergency. It might also require that if there is an emergency and or something comes up, then he has to take his son or she can fight to make him lose rights, which would give her more leverage to make his life and his relationship miserable by holding their son over his head. In my situation, my mother had custody, but my neglectful father and stepmom, whose oldest son was her golden child, and her husband and younger son still came before me by far, would fight for custody of me and plays lots of games, including tricking me and trying to poison me against my mother. So trust me, without more information, we can't actually know why he said no and asked to reschedule. At least he knew what his son is like and didn't ask to include him in OP's birthday plans, right? Sorry, but mom is responsible for making arrangements for the child. Dad may have first opportunity, but is not obligated to be mom's backup plan. Dad got played by mom. Girlfriend is entitled to be mad, but mom has been frustrating / interfering girlfriend's relationship with dad for a while. Dad isn't likely to change at this point, and so girlfriend's option is to live with this likelihood or move on. Good luck. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Since it was her weekend to have the kid, she did it on purpose. She did. She always does this. But I thought being that it was my birthday and the only time I asked for something, he would understand. The only reason she did this is because your boyfriend allowed her to. He should have stood firm. It was her weekend. She knew you guys had plans and she's being manipulative. You don't have an ex-wife problem. You have a boyfriend problem. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my son's half-sibling's mother half the money their father sends me? I have a son with a man named Michael. Michael has 2 children with a woman named Kathleen. Neither of us is currently in a relationship with Michael and don't exactly know where he is because he moves around a lot. Kathleen and I, as well as Michael's parents, do keep in touch for the kids. Every month, Michael will send me money through his friend. Given Michael's disdain for her and her financial difficulties, I assumed that he was not sending her any money. I didn't want to seem like I was bragging or anything, so I never brought up the money that Michael was sending me. Apparently, she always assumed I had a high-paying job, and only recently found out from Michael's parents that was not true, and it came to light that Michael was sending me money. So now, she wants me to give her half the money that Michael is sending me. She even suggested she was being generous, since she should really get 2/3, since she has 2 kids with Michael and I only have 1. The thing is, giving away half the money would really be a big financial blow to me and my son. It would mean a drastic change in our lifestyle, and we would have to move. I also wouldn't be able to put aside any more money for emergencies or for his future education. So far, I only have a small amount saved, but by the time he's 18, it should be a good amount to get him started. I do realize this is unfair to Kathleen and her kids, but as my son's mother, I do feel like it's my job to put him first and set him up for the best future I can. Ultimately, I think we can all agree that Michael is the main a-hole here, but I wonder if I'm too. I can live with it if I'm being an a-hole too, but maybe knowing how much I am will help me with how I further interact with Kathleen. Edit. It keeps being brought up, so I thought I should add that I do have a child support order. So does Kathleen. Kathleen hasn't been able to enforce hers because Michael gets paid under the table and doesn't have a bank account. Not the a-hole. Kathleen needs to settle this with Michael, not you. Exactly. OP is not being unfair to Kathleen. Michael is, and she can take him to court. OP, it is not your job to provide for Michael's other children. That's his job, not the a-hole. Exactly. OP only has responsibility to her son, and not to Kathleen and her children. While I understand it's not fair in Kathleen or her kids, it doesn't give her an excuse to behave entitled towards OP. Not the a-hole, OP. Just take care of your child and don't mind Kathleen. Not the a-hole. This has nothing to do with you, and is 100% a matter between her and the guy she has 2 kids with. If she does go to court, it would be against him, not you. Technically, you have 0 reasons to even communicate with her. However, you are getting money through the guy's friend, so that's not exactly reliable. I would not be basing my current lifestyle around such a nebulous source of money that could go away entirely at any point. This, OMG. That friend could be skimming some of it off the top already. True, but it's also just as possible that they aren't, or even coming through and supplying the cash, even when Michael is short/late/doesn't send it. It's good to be skeptical, but there are still some good people left in the world. If she is receiving the court-ordered amount, it doesn't matter. He apparently doesn't want his address or bank info available to her. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to be a stay-at-home mom? Plus update. Original post. Okay, I already know it sounds bad, but I, 35 female, and my husband Jeff, 37 male, are currently expecting a boy. His first child, but my second. I got pregnant with my first when I was 18, and his dad was never in the picture. I work as a substance abuse counselor, and I love my job. And this is where it gets tricky. My job offered me 8 weeks PTO for when I have our son. I've been so happy because I didn't want to go right back to work so soon. Me and Jeff got together when I turned 30 and he moved in with me because I own my house. We just got married this year and have talked about childcare multiple times, so he knows I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Well, I'm due in November and he just brought the idea up again. I was very confused because we've already talked about this. But I guess my mother-in-law and sister-in-law believe I should stay home with our son as a mother and wife. I just don't understand where their opinions come in, because I already know where they stand as both of them stayed home with the kids. All 3 of them sat me down to have this talk, and they want me to focus on the kids, cleaning up the house, making dinner and all of that, but I already work and do those things. Well, mother-in-law decided to throw it in my face that I never got to be a stay-at-home mom because I was a single mom going to school and working, which she's not wrong, but it definitely made me angry that she brought it up. I told them that I worked so hard to give my son a good life, and having another baby doesn't change my decision to keep doing something that I absolutely love doing. And that if they all want someone to take care of the house and kids all day, then Jeff should be a stay-at-home dad because I make more money than him, and it would make more sense for him to stay home instead of me. It turned absolutely horrible after that. I got yelled at by mother-in-law and sister-in-law that it's not his role as a father to do those things, that he is the man of the house and should be the one making the money. Jeff just stood there not saying anything, and I blew up and reminded all of them that it is my house, not his. I then kicked mother-in-law and sister-in-law out, and Jeff is so mad at me that he went with them. He said I won't come back till I apologize to all 3 of them. So am I the a-hole for not wanting to be a stay-at-home mom? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, and I'd think long and hard before letting any of them back in. So, am I the a-hole for not wanting to be a stay-at-home mom? Nope, not the a-hole. It's 2022. OP, you make more. It's your house. Your in-laws are dinosaurs and your husband just proved that he doesn't have your back. Bonus, here's your to-do list for tomorrow. 1. Change locks. 2. Make appointment to see family lawyer about custody, parenting time, and child support in your jurisdiction. 3. Research them on internet in meantime. 4. Resolve that none of those 3 people gets back in the door unless they provide you with a fulsome, sincere apology. Sorry about the marriage, OP. I hope it was fun while it lasted. Not the a-hole, but your significant other and his family sure are. Their ideas on gender roles are extremely outdated and harmful, and the fact that Jeff agrees with them enough to leave the house and wants to force you to apologize to them is a huge problem. Like, I cannot overstate how big of an issue this is, and what a bad pretend this is for your relationship and for your future child together. Please reevaluate your relationship with Jeff and whether or not his value systems are compatible with your own. Do you want your son to be taught this drivel about how he needs to grow up to be the man of the house? Do you want the rest of your life to be cooking and cleaning and taking care of the children for Jeff? Because presumably he won't lift a finger to help you. Because that's not his job? Because that's what's going to happen if you stay with this man and let him and his family treat you like this. Please be compassionate to yourself and to your children and realize that you deserve far, far better. My vote is the husband set up mother-in-law and sister-in-law to deliver this message. And he didn't do it with the goodness in his heart of having the baby have a stay-at-home mom. He did it so Opie would take care of him like his mom used to. Now for the update. It's currently 1:15 a.m. and Jeff just called me. He informed me that he cleared out our joint bank account and deposited it into his personal account. Bail money, savings for future trips, groceries money, etc. that he's been thinking, and the only way he'll come back home is if he can be responsible for all the finances. And I put his name on the house too. I said absolutely not, and hung up. I have already reached out to my boss and will be working from home tomorrow via virtual meetings. I will be calling and talking to attorneys tomorrow morning to see what my options are. I didn't let Jeff know I will be home, so I'm sure he'll try to stop by. I will update again soon. That escalated quickly. I don't know why they thought an employment intervention would work on a pregnant woman in her house. It's as if he married her because she was a ready-made woman and didn't need to do the initial work by buying a house and being the sole provider for a while. Oof. He wants his name on the house too. Something tells me he's going to lose more than the house. The fact that he stole the joint account's money will make him the luckiest man on earth if he gets visitation. But, Your Honor, I only took my pregnant wife's grocery and household money so she would give up her job and become a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to force her to rely on me to be the sole provider. I'm also asking for her house since as a stay-at-home mom with no money, she doesn't have any way to keep up with the expenses. This guy doesn't deserve OP. He is a toxic, controlling, misogynistic jerk. I hope he enjoys the next 18 years of child support. May the child never see their sperm donor outside of the court-ordered supervised visits. I hope she finds a shark of an attorney and goes scorched earth on this dude. I don't think a judge is going to look too kindly on him emptying their joint account meant for bills and leaving his pregnant wife without that money out of pettiness. All she needs to do is document and refuse to communicate except through her lawyer. Any texts or voicemails should be turned over to her lawyer. I went through my own not-so-great custody case many years ago, and I had a really good law firm behind me that emphasized that all contact goes through them and to report any attempts of contact since my ex was informed everything needed to go through the lawyers. Yes, from what I've heard, they don't tend to look kindly upon that at all. It's freaking gross and abusive. I literally laughed out loud when I saw that not only did her ex do that, he actually gave her a heads up. This guy is about to be spanked by the heavy hand of family law. Next story. Am I the a-hole for expecting my ex-husband to provide for me? I, 40 female, got married when I was 26 to my now 50 male ex-husband. He has always provided, but I was unhappy at some point in the marriage because I felt alone, and he was always traveling for work. Fast forward to 2016. I left him early that year, and later that year when I found out he had a girlfriend, I made him sign a parental responsibility agreement, giving me custody of our daughter 11 female, and I getting around $3,600 as child supports per month. When he had to leave my country in 2020, I couldn't sustain the child on my own as I have never worked. So I sent my daughter to live with him, in his country, under the promise that he would help me get residency so that I could stay near my daughter, even if he would have custody of her. Fast forward to now. He clearly knew I don't have an income and that I was relying on child support all my life. But since he wants to divorce to marry his girlfriend, I want to stay married to get my citizenship. I'm now in art school to make a living, but he is not supporting me in any way. Am I the a-hole for expecting him to treat me like the mother of his child and not just a blockage to his future marriage as his girlfriend puts it? You're the a-hole. 1. You chose to leave. 2. You should have been more responsible when leaving, such as setting yourself up with a job. My mother-in-law got married when she was 18. Then they split when she was 42. She went down to a hotel and got a cleaning job. Then she got a job at Walmart because that is what she had to do. 3. Child support is for the child. You are not the child. 4. Holding on to a marriage to get into a country is fraudulent. 1. I chose to leave for my happiness. I was mostly alone. He never cheated, but at 29, I needed my husband there and he wasn't. 2. I know, but I was desperate to be near my daughter. 3. Child support is also for the stay-at-home parent. No? You're the a-hole. Stand up on your own 2 feet for God's sake. Opie strikes me as highly entitled. I'm several years older than her, so I grew up at the same time, within the same social environment. It wasn't the 50s. Women weren't taught to expect to be housewives. We were treated as if we were going to go on and have jobs and careers. I knew one woman who was much like Opie. She didn't work or even try to work. She lived off her parents until she got married and then lived off her husband. She was the exception. Certainly nobody I knew looked at that as something to aspire to. You're the a-hole. Child support doesn't last your whole life. Where I'm at? It ends at 18 and graduation from high school. You will be a better person if you learn to support yourself. If you had physical custody of your daughter, he should pay support. He has physical custody, so you don't deserve child support. When you negotiate the divorce, you can negotiate alimony. Good luck. To add on to this, child support money is to support the child. Granted that some of that goes toward the home they live in and utilities they consume, etc. But the child is being supported in his home. Why would he pay her to support the child that lives with him? Exactly this. And in addition to this, she should be paying him child support. It goes both ways. If you read her replies, she's not processing anything that anyone is posting. She is just waiting for folks to agree with her. OP, time to grow up. Get your GED or country equivalent and stop being dependent on your ex to support you. It's like marching in cleats on a toilet paper bridge. Please don't keep denying or refusing the information or advice being provided, simply because it's not what you want to hear. It's an opportunity for you to become introspective, grow, and become a better woman and mother to your daughter. For the love of Pete, please teach her to be fully independent and not reliant on another person to survive. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for calling my ex's mom after he called me 37 times? Original post. For a little background, my ex Jay and I dated from when we were 15 to 17. We had a pretty toxic relationship, which resulted in some really serious issues that stemmed down the road. For example, I'm now infertile due to an accident between us. After our breakup, I can only say my side. I went down a dark path as I do already deal with bipolar disorder. I had to be hospitalized for mental health after I fell apart. At this moment of time, Jay and I are 19 now and we both are in a long-term committed relationships. I don't keep up with him and we are no contact, except for his mother who I talk to occasionally. I was at work and I received a call from Jay. I thought I had him blocked, so I was confused. I work part-time at a spa while I'm in school, so I have to be mindful of what I do at work as a receptionist at the front of the spa. So I sent a text asking what he wanted. No response. I then start receiving more calls, and I then realized we have each other blocked, so I was confused. I sent an email telling him to stop because the calls were racking up and I'm at work. By 5 p.m., I had 21 missed calls and it was starting to send me into a panic attack. I have panic disorder that stems from PTSD. I sent another email saying 21 calls is overkill and he needs to stop right now. I got no response again, so I let my current boyfriend Kyle know. My boyfriend knows every little detail about Jay and my relationship because a lot of issues I have now are from that. So my boyfriend already despised Jay. I then tried to ignore it and tried to be done with work. Then around 7 p.m., I start receiving more calls. Non-stop. I turned my phone off and walked outside for a bit of fresh air and I started texting one of our mutual friends who is closer to me on my laptop. He said it's impossible for him to call me because I have him blocked. I said I thought so too. He then said to not engage with him at all, so I did just that. I kept my boyfriend aware with everything and I told a few of my super close friends who were there during my ex relationship and watched how everything went down, and they found it disturbing. I turned on my phone and when it's powered fully on, I had 18 plus missed calls. One of my friends told me to answer it, but I refused. My boyfriend is obviously angry, not at me, and he said I need to change my number, which I am absolutely considering now. It disturbed me because to my knowledge he is in a long-term relationship, and from what I've heard, he's happy. I talked to my mom and she told me to talk to his mom, so I texted her and told her everything. After that, I got a ton of texts from his friends saying I'm low and a witch for contacting his mom. I do feel bad because we are adults and should be able to handle things on our own. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. If he doesn't want his mom called, he shouldn't call you 37 times. Agreed. That's what my mom said. Also, him blowing you up like this is probably an indicator that something is wrong in his life. So letting his mom, who I'm assuming is a close trusted family member in his life, know about it is actually a good thing to do. Not the a-hole. Now call the cops. He's out of control. My mom wants me to file a protection order for sure. That's a likely possibility. This is awful. I'm so glad you have a support system helping you through this. I hope X finally leaves you alone for good. Now for the update. First of all, thank you so much for the endless support. I felt very alone in this situation and I felt much better with your comments. I read each and every one of them. Now the update. I called a lawyer yesterday and we're trying to organize everything to see if we could get a restraining order on him. While that was in the process, I went on my days as usual. Then yesterday I got a weird call. It wasn't from his number. It was from a random and it was creepy, saying, I have a crush on you. I see you around the lobby of your apartment. Then they said they would see me tomorrow. My boyfriend was there, and we contacted my boss as I had to work the next day. So my boss was gonna stay during my shift, and my boyfriend was going to pick me up from work so that I'm not alone. Everything is fine, until today when I got another call, and it was Jay's number. I still didn't answer it. I turned my phone off and just cried. Then I turned my phone on and he had called me 16 more times. I'm so unsure what to do anymore. I told my parents, my boyfriend, and the lawyers. I feel so vulnerable. I'm still at work and I'm freaking out. I do have him blocked. Someone commented that it's possible that he is using a VPN to contact me, and that's what I believe is the most reasonable answer, because I am unsure how he is able to get through. I am also going to change my number.